All right, guys, first of all, let me tell you, I'm not going to sugarcoat this, not one tiny bit. So the other day when I was live, I watched that video where Karen Spilka, she went completely off the rails on the auditor. And after I watched this a couple times, I rewatched that interview. I could tell you with the utmost certainty that her performance on WCVB might be the most perfect example of why Massachusetts is dead last in government transparency in this entire country. And here's why. When they asked her about Diana DeZoglio's new ballot initiative, which would force the legislature and the governor's office to follow the same public records laws that pretty much everybody else has, do you know what Spilka said? She said, almost verbatim, "I haven't looked at the language in the ballot initiative. I haven't looked at it." So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, again, after I rewatched this, I'm thinking, this doesn't make any sense. There is absolutely no way that she doesn't know what this says. These lunatics will do anything in their power to stay in power. Do you see what I'm saying? So guess what I did? I did a little bit of digging. I decided to do some digging, and here's what I found. Her office, the office of the Senate President, Karen Spilka's office, sent a 13-page legal opposition letter to the Attorney General in August 15th of 2025 to be exact, which is 3 months prior to this interview happening. This was WCVB's On the Record. And by the way, this is not, that letter wasn't some kind of casual, hey, we have some concerns here. This thing is a full-blown legal brief, literally. I'm going to put it up on the screen here. It's quoting court cases. It cites the Massachusetts Constitution, Article 48, and it goes line by line through the auditor's language. I mean, they were even analyzing phrases like developing policy positions and arguing that they're too vague. There were over, I think, 4 or 5 whole pages that tear apart specific wording from Diana's initiative. On top of that, it's CC'd to her, and it's written on behalf of the Senate President, Karen E. Spilka, and the Massachusetts Senate. There it is. But she hasn't looked at the language? This is embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And look, I get it, guys. I understand these things. Politicians, they like to dodge questions. They deflect. They like to spin them. And the legacy media tries to cover for them, okay? That's the game, and that's how they play it, right? But this isn't a spin. This is either a straight-up lie, or it might be worse. She genuinely doesn't remember her own office spending weeks crafting a legal assault on transparency law. That's what it is. And you know what the most infuriating part of this is? Her forgetting this proves exactly why we need the damn law in the first place. Think about it like this. If the Senate President can't recall a major policy position from her office 3 months ago, what else is happening in the shadows? What else is happening behind the scenes? What other decisions are being made that conveniently slip her mind when the cameras turn on? Do you see what I'm saying here? This is the woman who controls the bills that get voted on. This is the woman that gets to bury things in committee. And this is the woman that has the authority to make sure things never see the light of day. And she can't remember her own opposition to public accountability? It's absolutely outrageous. It is. And we, the voters, have to deal with this. We should not have to deal with this. And in the same exact interview, Spilka also said, and this is almost quoting her directly, that voters were not told that we already do an audit. Now, what she's talking about is the 2024 ballot initiative that gave Diana DeZoglio the authority to audit the legislature. Spilka's whole defense on this is that voters didn't know that the Senate already hires a private accounting firm to do some annual audits. She frames this as like some secret that the public wasn't aware of. Like DeZoglio ran a deceptive campaign, except the 2024 voter guidebook, which is available at voteinma.com, explicitly mentions these audits. The majority legislative report opposing the petition says, and I quote, "The House and the Senate under their individual governing rules, require a yearly financial audit conducted by an independent auditing firm. These audit reports, they're available to the public, but there's like nothing in them, okay? Again, this is in the guidebook. This is in the voter handbook, okay? In the official voter information guide, it's published on the Secretary of the Commonwealth's website. Voters know about this. And this is an absolute insult to the intelligence of every single person in this state. That's what this is. And here's the thing. Karen doesn't think that the voters care, in my opinion, about an audit, right? And the other thing is, when there's these internal audits, the problem is they don't itemize anything. It just says basically, we spent money and here's how much it is. There's no breakdowns and stuff like that. There's nothing of that nature, right? Nothing is itemized. So we voted on the auditor taking care of this anyway. Almost everybody did. It was 72% because people aren't stupid. 72% said yes because maybe, just maybe, people don't trust a system where politicians hire their own auditors and call it accountability. That's what it is. You hire your own referee, you write your own report, and then you act shocked when people say the game is rigged. That's what's going on here. And here's the other thing. Here is the other thing that Spilka goes after DeZoglio personally. She said that she has no idea what happens in the Senate and that it's very unfortunate, and that, or maybe she's totally forgotten, meaning Diana totally forgot what happens in the Senate, okay? I don't think that's the case here. Diana DeZoglio was a state senator. She sat in the same chamber as Spilka. She probably voted on bills. She probably participated in caucuses, and she more than likely worked on committees as well. She didn't just visit the State House on some kind of field trip or something like that. She was a sitting member of the Massachusetts Senate while Karen Spilka was the Senate president. But sure, Diana has no idea what happens in there. Okay, yeah. Nobody believes this. Absolutely nobody believes this. You know what this reminds me of? Look at it this way. This reminds me of like every single time someone leaves a company and says that they saw stuff on the inside and something wasn't right, and then the company writes a response on Twitter or on Blue Sky or whatever the hell it is, and they said that they were never really part of the team and they don't understand how things work in here. It's gaslighting. That's what it is. It's dismissive. And it's also insulting to anyone that is paying attention. You see what I'm saying? That's the way that it goes. DeZoglio isn't some outsider making wild accusations. She's a former insider who got elected to be the state auditor specifically because she promised to audit Beacon Hill. Voters know her background. They know she has been in the Senate, and they voted for her anyway. 72%. Again, the voters of Massachusetts said, yes, we want the auditor to have the power to audit the legislature. And yes, we want some kind of transparency here because the amount of spending in Massachusetts is outrageous. It's out of control. And what does Beacon Hill do? They lawyer up. They hired some fancy legal counsel on your dime, by the way, to argue that the voter-approved audit is unconstitutional. And they've stalled this for over a year now. And now they're doing the same exact thing with this new ballot initiative about public records. So regardless of what she says on TV, on the record, I guess is on the record only means unless it's about records. That's the way that it goes with these places anymore. That's really what it is. It's almost like Karen Spilka has the same convenient political amnesia as Mara Healey does. Really, this is a pattern, okay? This is what I think. This is a pattern. I think that all of these people are operating in some round table, and they are all providing coordinated attacks and talking points to try to oppose the auditor, okay? This is a coordinated attack against the auditor, which is a coordinated attack against the voters of the state. That's what it is. That's really what it is. And, look at it this way. To my knowledge, Massachusetts is one of the only states in the entire country where the legislature, the governor's office, and the judiciary, they all claim to be completely exempt of public records laws. We are one of 9 states where the legislature is exempt in some way, in some manner, and some form. And we're just one of 2 states, I believe it's us and Michigan, where both the governor and the legislature claim that they don't have to follow the law. I mean, it's crazy to me that this is happening. And that's the way that it goes. Massachusetts and Michigan. We also rank at the bottom for nationally in government transparency. This is a well-known thing. And every time somebody tries to fix it, the same thing happens. Beacon Hill digs their toes into the sand. They claim that they're already transparent. They point to voluntary measures like posting votes online or putting financial data on some website that nobody's ever heard of before. And then you go to look at the data, and it is the most ambiguous data you've ever seen. That's it. Okay? And then they fight tooth and nail against any law that would actually force them to open up the books. Do you see a problem with this? Spilka said in the interview, we've worked really hard to increase transparency. That's what she said. She's proud of the rule changes they've made. And like committee testimonies are all online now and stuff like that. The Senate posts a weekly schedule on social media. That's great. That's fantastic. But that's really the bare minimum. That's not transparency. That's just social media, some kind of social media PR. Okay. Real transparency means you could file a public records request and get the information. It means that you could see the internal memos about why a bill died in committee. It means that journalists can request meeting notes and drafts and correspondence. You know, the same exact stuff that every other state agency in Massachusetts has to provide under the law. The same stuff the governor's office should have to provide as well. The same stuff that the legislature has exempted themselves for like 50 years or however long it's been since like 1972 or 73 or something. That's how long that these people have been operating in the shadows. And why? It makes us think, why is this happening? That's the problem. And every time a voter says, hey, maybe we should change that, they get the same runaround. The same legal arguments, the same condescending explanations about how we don't understand how government works, the same lines about how they're already doing enough. They're not doing enough. I'm sorry to tell you this. If everybody thinks you're not doing enough, guess what? You're not, right? It's that simple. This is very simple, guys. Very, very simple. But think of it this way. If they think they're already doing enough, why is everybody fighting so hard? Why? If the Senate is really as transparent as Spilka claims, what are they afraid of? What's in the emails? What's in the meeting notes? What are they hiding? Because let me tell you something. When someone fights this desperately to avoid accountability, it's not because they have nothing to hide. It's because they have everything to hide. That's the way that it goes. And here's a perfect example. I've been waiting for almost a year for the bids on White Stadium in Boston. We have sent multiple Freedom of Information Act requests over to Wu's administration. And they've stalled, every single one. First, they tell us they're going to send them. Then they say they can't. Then they come up with some ridiculous excuse of why they can't. They won't release them. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, guys. And realistically, nobody should have to deal with this. Nobody should have to deal with this. These people are the least transparent people in the entire country, at least one of the least transparent. And again, it's embarrassing, guys. So don't believe what these people say. You really have to do some digging because they like getting on TV. They like getting the opportunity to be on the spotlight, and they like providing an opportunity to divert the public of what they know or what they don't know. That's the way that it goes. So anyway, that's it for today's video, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.